Are you struggling with low bookings or no profits?
Let's get real about the 5 mistakes that are costing you money. And spoiler alert, it's not because of Airbnb bust.
Hi, I'm Sarah Karakayan.
And I'm Annette Grant. And together we are
Thanks for visiting.
We've been hosting for well over a decade, welcomed tens of thousands of guests, and earned thousands of 5-star reviews.
Our portfolio continues to bring in over $1.5 million year over year, and supported not only by the industry's leading brands, but also some of the biggest media outlets.
And we're here to help you with your furnished rental.
Mistake number 1. Short-term rentals are not going to save your bad buy. Also, a market misread is no bueno. Let's dig into not doing market research. So many hosts out there, first of all, didn't do market research, or they were only basing their research off of the sky-high demand that was present during the COVID era. And if you were only basing your numbers off of that sky-high demand and not being more conservative or looking at historicals, then you might be in some trouble right now. And so, are there ways that you can pivot? What are the high demands in your market? Can you add amenities that'll actually bring more revenue to your property? Do you need new photos? Do you need to change the copy up in your listing? Maybe it's just not going to work no matter how many different ways you pencil it out, and you got to get real with yourself. All I know is that there are hosts out there hurting and they're blaming it on Airbnb bust. Airbnb bust only exists because people underwrote their properties only with high demand, making it possible to have that property work. And there's just no way that that can always work out for you.
And if you're still looking for your first Airbnb, please, when you are looking at Zillow and getting so excited, you have to fact check those numbers that realtors are putting in. We know they are bold-faced lying, they're putting numbers that are 3 or 4 years old and not what the current market demands. So you have to take those with a grain of salt. You need to do your own due diligence and make sure that the math works for you and your family.
And actually, really quick, so I actually was talking to a host who was only doing her market research using data from AirDNA, which of course you think like, well, it's data, like it's great, but you also need to talk to that marketplace. This host lived in Texas. She was hosting in our area of Columbus, Ohio, only using AirDNA data. There could be a property that might set different data marks off to be one-off, to be an outlier. So have conversations with property managers in the area you want to invest. Have multiple conversations with trusted realtors. You have to get into the marketplace and talk to people, and also match that with the data that you're seeing on platforms like AirDNA before you make a decision.
And let's face it, we all like to overestimate. We never want to look at the worst case scenario. We always kind of run our numbers off of the best case scenario. Please run the worst case scenario and make sure that you have enough savings for any property that you purchase.
What's another way that you can get your property crushed other than a bad buy or your underwriting not being accurate? Are local regulations. And if you didn't understand where local regulations stood when you purchased the property, and know that they can always be changing, which is why it behooves you to understand where to get the information about regulations regarding short-term rentals in the market that you decided to purchase in.
Yeah, because we've met hosts that have bought in a certain city, but once they really understood the zoning, they were in another city that did not allow short-term rentals. So we don't want that to happen to you. So make sure you are covering all of your bases when it comes to your local regulations.
This is another reason Annette and I know this doesn't work in all scenarios. Sometimes it's worth it to buy a short-term rental, a vacation rental in a vacation rental market. But Annette and I like to invest in properties mostly that have multiple exit strategies. So yes, it's a short-term rental. Then it can pivot to midterm, and then it could pivot to long-term. And hey, it would be easy to sell on the marketplace, whether it would be selling as a short-term rental or a primary home. We like having those different exit strategies. We also own a glamping site, and obviously we're going to have unique structures on there. And so we have to make sure that we really understand our worst case scenario, our this should happen scenario, and then best case scenario, and make sure that we're running our numbers on those projections.
Mistake number 2, poor financial management. Not knowing your numbers. This is the biggest mistake that we see hosts making, not understanding what does it really cost per reservation? What are my overall expenses on the home? And the number one culprit of this is people not separating their Airbnb from their personal finances. All right, that needs to be step number 1. You want to make sure that all income and expenses from your Airbnb property are in a separate business account. And this just isn't for know your numbers, it's also for liability. We like to have all of our properties in an LLC, but I'm telling you, if you cannot have a clear picture of the income and expenses of your property, you're never gonna know your numbers, you're never gonna know if it's profitable, and you're never gonna know what levers you need to pull in order to make it profitable. And once you have your business expenses and personal expenses separated, it is imperative that you go through line item by line item and make sure you understand every reservation that's coming in. Are you maximizing your reservations? And then also your expenses. Are all of those expenses needed?
It's good to put in your calendar, maybe you use Google Calendar, and you can have tasks within your Google Calendar. Create a task for yourself that repeats, whether you need to do it every week or every 2 weeks. Like Annette said, go through your different reservations. I know it can feel overwhelming if you're getting reservations from different booking platforms like VRBO, Airbnb. There's other OTAs out there.
Direct bookings, hopefully.
Your direct booking. But truly go through the line items by line items and then checking out where is the money going. If it's going to Stripe and then going to your bank account, making sure that that is actually what's happening and you understand there are Stripe fees involved. All that stuff you need to have a good grasp on. You don't want to get 6 months, 8 months, a whole year out and figure out that the math isn't mathing or the numbers aren't numbering at the end of the year. Then you have to go back and take that giant bite out of all that information. If you just do it week by week, it makes it a whole lot simpler.
With this poor financial management, we see so many hosts pile on tech. They have, tech stack gets out of control because they think they need all the things to give themselves, like automate things for themselves and give their guests the best experience. I want you to comb through your tech that you have plugged into your property and make sure you actually need all of it. What is the pain points that it's solving for you? Make sure you're using it every month and not just like, oh, I'll learn it later. Go ahead, make sure that when you're going through your expenses, you see all of that tech that's involved. And if you are not, if there is one piece of tech that we want to make sure that you have because it can actually make you money, you need to have dynamic pricing. We use Price Labs. We'll make sure to put their link in the show notes.
Speaking about keeping your profits and your expenses all organized and also keeping your tech stack cost low, you have to check out our video all about how we use Relay, which is a financial platform that is absolutely free for business owners to use, and it helps you keep your profits, your expenses, your taxes, all of it really organized and helps you set up your Airbnb business right the first time. Mistake number 3, not understanding all the tax advantages. When you're investing in a short-term rental, it is crucial to have a relationship with a tax professional, especially having a tax professional who not only understands real estate, but also understands all the awesome tax benefits of having a short-term rental. Because maybe you do want to pay yourself a portion of the cash flow, and that was part of your strategy. Great. Make sure that you're allocating for that each and every month, quarter, or year, whatever works for you. Maybe it's the forced depreciation on the property. Maybe it's the rate of appreciation in the marketplace. And making sure that you're keeping your CPA or your tax specialist up to date with your goals, with the property, with whatever else you're doing in your life, and how all of those things can intertwine to really benefit you as a property owner.
Mistake number 4, the unwelcoming host effect. Guests know when they are not welcome in your home. Yes, I'm looking at you, host. Take a look. Look at your photos. That is how you are selling your property to potential guests. Have they been taken with your iPhone with zero attention to detail, low lit? Looks like you just wanted to throw your property up on Airbnb with any potential of hosting amazing people in your property. That's step number 1, is just look at what your guest is potentially looking at before booking. Then your house rules. I cannot tell you how many times I go and potentially want to book a property, and then I see this laundry list of house rules of do they actually really even want me to come stay at their property? They scare me away from potentially booking.
Talk about that experience you just had staying at that vacation rental where the host left these little kind of mean notes on different aspects of his property.
Everywhere. It was kind of snarky. I didn't book it. One of my family members did, but literally it was on every light switch, on every cabinet, there was something snarky. I was just do you actually want guests staying in your home? So just look at the way that you're communicating with your potential guests. And I'm going to share, people are looking at your reviews. They're going to see what past guests are saying, and that could be tanking your rank. People look at those past reviews. So make sure you're responding to each and every one of your reviews, good and or bad.
And I get it. There are those guests that really can crush your spirit. Because you might be saying, well, Sarah and Annette, it's hard out on these streets, right? Being a host these days, guests want so much, and we get it. And here's the deal, a little tough love. If a little bit of pushback or a bad experience, 1 or 2 or 3 is going to be enough to make you the snarky host or the unwelcoming host, then maybe this isn't the biz for you. Or no one said that customer service was easy, that hospitality was easy, and picking short-term rentals as a way to build wealth, you did not pick the easy path. It is enjoyable, it is very profitable, but you have to make sure that you're not letting those 1-off, 2-off guests that can really crush your spirits have you then change the experience for every other guest that you welcome into your space. Because after doing this for well over a decade, we can promise you a majority of the experiences that we have with guests have been exceptional. And if you put that negativity back in the world, it just comes back to you, and it does affect your profits and it does affect your bookings.
Yeah, so check yourself before you wreck yourself. Take a look and do your own listing audit, and is it welcoming to potential guests? Don't get skipped over. If you want to make sure that your home is very welcoming to each and every guest, make sure to download our essentials checklist in the show notes.
Mistake number 5, blaming your lack of bookings on Airbnb bust. Being passive with short-term rentals is not enough. I hope you've gotten that enough from us. If you tune into our channel, hopefully you do, that we are not sugarcoating things over here. We can help you make money, but you have to understand this is an active way to invest in real estate. And by active, I mean you have to be a business owner. You have to be ready to pull different levers to make it work. So if you need to get yourself maybe on more OTAs, if you're just on Airbnb, sure, a majority of the bookings for us still come on Airbnb, but you better believe we have plenty that come from Vrbo, that come from Whimstay, that come from Booking.com. I mean, the more you diversify, and of course, we'll get into this in the next section a little bit more, but your direct bookings. So diversifying on where people can find you is top of funnel. Like, you need to do that. Next up, you need to make sure that you're being strategic with how you make money. So for us here in Columbus, Ohio, we do have the flexibility, which is exactly why we invest here, when it gets really slow. So from December until March, we pivot. You actually can't book our places for less than 30 days. So we want to attract a mid-rental guest, someone who's here on contract or here for the holiday season, visiting family, want to stay a while. That's who we're attracting during those slower periods, so we can guarantee, yes, we don't make as much in the short-term stays, but we can control our revenue a bit more. And then another thing that you can tweak is your pricing. Maybe you're not being up on pricing as much as you need to be. You cannot just rely on your dynamic pricing to do your revenue management for you. It is an art and a science. And so if you're not attracting the kind of revenue that you need to attract, look at the different levers you can pull within your dynamic pricing software. Maybe you offer different length of stay benefits financially. Maybe you have a gap night pricing strategy. So that night between a guest checking out and the next guest checking in, are you marketing that effectively?
Also, just understanding the demand in your market. Simply lowering your price doesn't mean that guests are going to automatically appear
pop up
in your market. So we see so many hosts get that wrong. They're like, oh, if I lower my price, then I'll get booked. But if travelers aren't coming to your city, you're not going to get booked no matter how low you go. And it's really important that you understand the seasonality of your business.
Well, you might get booked too by the wrong kind of guest. Absolutely. I mean, I think we can all agree that there is a correlation between having a really low rate and getting a really low quality guest in there. So like Annette said, if there is lower demand in the marketplace, still have a fair market rate for your property. And then everything else, all your marketing strategies have to be in place to attract that guest to book your place over the competitors. Another thing that you can do is diversify your property in terms of how big or small you make it. Especially those out there who have a large property, you can try our parent-child listing strategy. We have so many videos on this topic and content on our website on this topic, but essentially you make your 4-bedroom, 4-bath house into a 2-bedroom, 2-bath house. You make it more
appealing to different,
yeah.
So it could be 2 guests versus 4 guests, and you can actually have multiple listings on Airbnb, so you can show up for whatever the guest is looking for. You'll want to make sure to check out our video on that, though, to make sure that you're setting it up correctly.
Yeah, so if a guest books you as a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, your 4-bedroom, 4-bath would automatically be no longer available, or vice versa. And there's so many nuances to that strategy, but there are so many ways for you to pull levers in the short-term rentals, which is why I like investing that way, and of course all of you, but we can't just sit in our laurels and blame it on this external situation that we have very little to no control over. Take action and do something different in your business.
When's the last time you personally marketed your property? We throw it up on Airbnb Airbnb and think that all the money's gonna roll in. And the only thing that they're doing for us is marketing, and you can take that power back. You have your personal network. You have the network of the area that your property is in. You hopefully have been collecting emails from your past guests that you can invite them back. Hopefully you have a social media and you're inviting new guests. You are in business now. You have to do the sales and marketing and not just leave it up to the OTAs. So take it into your own hands and start to do your own marketing efforts. And you can start out small, but make sure that you're doing something every day, every week, every month to market your property to new guests and, of course, welcoming those past guests back again. As we mentioned earlier in the video, make sure to check out some more of our education on how to start your Airbnb business using Relay, and then also setting up that parent-child listing so you can make more money.
That one's actually, they're both really good ones. With that, I am Sarah Karakayan.
I'm Annette Grant, and together we are
Thanks for visiting.